All right, friends, let's be honest. Last month was a pretty disastrous development for my portfolio. I've invested about 30% of my 465,000 euro portfolio in crypto, and that's really taken a hit lately. Today, as always, we want to talk about it transparently. I'll also show you my new purchases totaling over 10,000 euros, as well as the passive income I earned last month. And with that, I'd like to say welcome to Northern Finance. My name is Alex Bleck.
Hi, my name is Alex from Northern Finance. This video was translated with the help of AI so that we can reach more people in their own language. A native speaker has reviewed the translation. Still, some sentences might sound a little unusual. Thanks for being here and enjoy the video now.
So here we have an overview of my entire portfolio again, tracked in detail since 2022, from then through 2025 up to today, 2026. At the turn of the year, my portfolio stood at 463,000 euros, and today, just a little over a month later, we're only at 465,000 euros, and that's despite more than 10,000 euros in new deposits, mind you. That's simply due to this massive drop in crypto. My Bitcoin share, shown here in the yellowish line, has dropped in value from 149,000 euros to just 124,000 euros, so that's really a lot. My delta as well, meaning the unrealized gain in value, has dropped sharply from 170,000 euros in October of last year. Back then, the total portfolio value was briefly over 500,000 euros, and now the profits are just melting away more and more. Now there are only 32,000 euros of unrealized profit left. After 4 years, over 70,000 euros of unrealized profit are gone. Yeah, it's really crazy how quickly that happened in just the last few months. In contrast, the P2P portfolio is developing very steadily, as you can see here. In this line, we currently have 107,000 euros invested, as well as the interest from it, which is also developing very nicely. If we look at the whole thing over the last 12 months, we see here the previous peak of my portfolio at 509,000 euros, more than 500,000. But that only lasted for a very short time, and despite high monthly deposits, my portfolio is currently worth about 40,000 euros less. The ETFs shown in the dark blue line have by far performed the best in the last few months, it has to be said. Here, the total value of the ETFs was 150,000 euros at the beginning of October. Today, 4 months later, we are already at 183,000 euros. Of course, that's also due to my large ETF share, which makes up nearly 40% of my portfolio and the new investments I keep making here. As of today, 183,000 euros are invested here, but that's not my only investment. The crypto portion is also currently very large at almost 30%. It used to be much larger in the past, 45%, but now it's only 30%, and that's just been dragging everything down lately, including the nice performance of the ETFs. If we take a look at the 2-year chart, we can see how I've been buying in more and more every month. Each green triangle here on Bitcoin represents a purchase, and last month I also bought Bitcoin for 3,000 euros. And looking back, it was at a really bad rate, yes, at 76,000 euros. Yeah, now it's almost 10,000 euros cheaper, but you just don't know that beforehand. Sometimes you get lucky and sometimes you don't, and this time I just wasn't lucky. Today there was also a nice jump upwards of 4 or 5%, but overall the portfolio doesn't look good at the moment, I have to say. During this rough patch, I will continue to buy steadily as I have so far. I'm not going to change anything about that. I've been investing in the stock market for 10 years now, and if I've learned one thing, it's that the world will keep turning. And after such, yes, very rapid devaluations of really large assets, because Bitcoin is one of the largest assets in the world, there is always a recovery. And that's always the case. That will be the case here as well. This is not investment advice, just my personal opinion. After such periods of weakness, a recovery always follows sooner or later, and during that time, I just buy in a bit more cheaply. Here on CoinMarketCap, we can see the performance of the largest and top cryptocurrency. And I've set the filter to 7, 30, and 90 days of performance, just to show how much this entire digital asset sector has suffered over the past few months. And here we see a 23% loss for Bitcoin as the largest cryptocurrency, a 30% loss for Ethereum, and 28% for XRP. And the further we go down in this table, the worse it tends to get. Avalanche is at minus 38% and Sui at minus 43%. And the decline goes even further than that. The Fear and Greed Index is also very well known and is currently at extreme fear, a level that has only very rarely been reached at all in recent years, and then only for a very short period of time. There was such a development last November without any recovery so far, and before that there was always a nice recovery after such phases. For example, in March of last year, we had the tariff shock from Trump, but afterwards there was a recovery from 76 to over $120,000 in Bitcoin. And yes, I really wouldn't panic too much about this right now. Right now, there's a lot of panic. You can also see that on such a barometer. And I just keep buying and stay completely calm. And that's by far not the only investment in my portfolio. Yes, thank God. I also have an ETF base, and the iShares Core MSCI Emerging Markets makes up 45% of that and reached a new record high last month. Yes, that's definitely some very good news. Here, I bought 72 shares at 41 euros each for just under 3,000 euros. And as you can see here, I only started buying this ETF in 2024. Before that, I had a different one. And I also bought into the MSCI World. Here, I also invested 3,000 euros. That was 27 shares at 113 euros and 42 cents each. And here, the performance recently wasn't as strong as with emerging markets, but still pretty good, I'd say. So I've invested 6,000 euros in ETFs. My broker Freedom24 is still running the big free stock promotion where you can secure up to 500 euros in free stocks. And here you also get worldwide trading and very favorable conditions. Link below in the video description. I also bought Bitcoin for 3,000 euros, so we're already at 9,000 euros invested last month. But there's even more to add on top of that. First, let's keep looking at my portfolio. I want to briefly talk about MicroStrategy again. That remains a bottomless pit, my worst investment so far. For now, I'm just going to wait and do nothing here. Let's filter the entire portfolio by this year's performance, and here we see a loss of 1.6% so far in the overall portfolio. As I said, the starting point was 462,000 euros, 9,000 euros in capital losses, and I deposited 11,000 euros. Some of that is already from February, so we're currently at 465,000 euros. The P2P portfolio itself delivered 0.8% for me in this 1 month. Annualized, that would be 9%, but January was a bit weaker, and the crypto portfolio, well, that's at minus 10.4%. Even if it were to theoretically continue like this, it would be even worse with minus 69% in a year, but let's not paint such a bleak picture here. January was deep in the red with almost 10% down, and February is also slightly negative so far. Here we can also see the whole year, minus 1.7% overall, minus 10% for crypto, and plus 3.9% for the ETFs. Here we have the ETF page again, and if we open the performance with the 1-year view, we see the total portfolio in black, which is down 11% over the last 12 months. Really not great, and P2P remains one of the best investments with 11.3%, and the emerging markets ETF remains unbeaten. In first place with 23.5% return over the last 12 months, while the world ETF is at 5.7%, so relatively weak in comparison. If we add Bitcoin to the mix, we can clearly see the loss over the past few months here, minus 33% in the last 12 months. That's really enormous, and we're definitely in a bear market with Bitcoin at the moment. Over a longer period of time, it's a completely different story. In that case, Bitcoin outperforms all other assets, but the recent decline has been immense, you have to say. If we take Bitcoin out, we can see the other lines a bit more clearly. This jagged green line represents my P2P interest, which I always record here at the end of the month, and it's been one of the best investments you could make since 2022. It never ceases to amaze me, really. To this day, I've earned 43% returns with it in 4 years, which is an excellent figure. That's better than the overall portfolio at 34%, better than the MSCI World, which is at 40.7%, shown by this light blue line, and also better than the MSCI Emerging Markets with 30.3% returns. Peer-to-peer loans have simply been an incredibly good investment over the past 4 years. No one can tell me otherwise. And the interest rate development is also illustrated very nicely here, while the other investments fluctuate more or less. It's very stable and also, yes, highly profitable. If you want to know how I currently rate the 10 best peer-to-peer lending platforms in comparison, then click the link here in the info card or also below in the video description. Now, to return to the topic of Bitcoin, I am going to continue to buy more at this level, as I said before, even if the price drops down to 60,000 euros per Bitcoin or 30,000 euros or even significantly lower. I always prefer to buy when there is blood in the streets, yes, even if it is my own blood. And right now, Bitcoin is in exactly such a moment, and this is not the time to hesitate right now, but you should just keep going as usual or even buy more if you are fully convinced. Of course, I don't know when the recovery will come, but I'm simply staying in for the long term. My Bitcoin position, as you can see here, is now at a loss of 2,000 euros. At one point, that was more than 50 or 60,000 euros in profit. But those times will come again, and now it's important not to only buy in during expensive phases, but also to stay invested and keep investing during the cheaper phases, even when things are going badly, because in the long run, those are always the best prices and they also bring the best returns. Strategy is, of course, the most brutal loss so far with the 27,000 euros. And here I'm not just annoyed by the share price, but also by the fact that I no longer trust the CEO. The way he frequently changes his mind so often, even towards investors. For example, he once said that at a value of less than 2.5 NAV, he wouldn't issue new shares, but just a few weeks later, he did exactly that anyway. In my opinion, Strategy is a long-term candidate with truly enormous potential, since they already own an unbeatable and massive amount of Bitcoin. No other company will even come close to that. That could be an extremely big advantage in the long run, but right now they're under a lot of pressure. And I also have to say I'm not satisfied with the CEO when he says one thing and does another. That brings us to my passive income, my interest from P2P loans. And as I said, I currently have 107,000 euros invested in P2P. Last month, as you can see here, I earned almost exactly 900 euros from it. Most of the interest again came from Ventus Energy with 214 euros, where I've also achieved the highest return so far, and that's on an investment of 13,846 euros. As you can see here, there's still 5% cashback on the latest investment, which itself pays 16% per year. That means in the first year, you get 21% here, and this is a wind and solar park that is to be expanded. The early exit is already available here starting from August this year. Here you can also see some details and my full review, the on-site visit, and the link with an extra bonus. I've linked all of that for you below in the video description. Debitum has since earned me 126 euros in interest. I currently have 12,600 euros invested here and earn 12.6% per year. I will also be increasing my investment here soon. Most recently, I also invested here in some longer-term loans from LFDF and Triple Dragon at 15 and 14%, since LFDF is increasingly able to sell land very profitably and the business model is working out well. The links for this, as with all other platforms, are also below in the video description. Next, we come to Monifit. Here I earned 107 euros last month. It's really getting more and more every month, which is really cool. And here I have 15,824 euros invested, which we increase by 500 euros each month through a savings plan. So last month, another 500 euros were added. And with that, I earn nice money in the vault, which is paid out monthly here. And I earn 2.17 euros per day here with Smart Saver. Every day, that's really, really, a cool thing. And it brings me joy. This is one of the investments that I currently like the most. It just works. That's really nice, and it's very predictable. That's also very valuable. The link for this is also down in the video description, just like for all the other platforms. On Swapper, I earned 69 euros, but the cash drag is currently way too high. Yeah, just take a look at this. 2/3 of my money is actually invested, and 1/3 is just, lying around doing nothing. And that's why I took out those 1,879 euros that were just lying around and have now shifted them over to Debitum. The transfer should most likely arrive there tomorrow. So, Swaper, I think I'm slowly saying goodbye because the cash drag is just getting worse and worse. Landy paid me 58 euros. FF Forest is also performing quite well at the moment with a total of 47 euros. And is definitely a strong candidate to which I'll be reallocating money from Swaper next, if things continue to progress in this manner. Here I'm getting 18% on my roughly 3,000 euro investment, and now I can also reinvest the money using the auto allocation feature, which we've shown here before, something that wasn't possible previously, and that's a good improvement. Bondora Go and Grow brought me 46 euros last month. Yes, actually here I have 9,166 euros invested and earn 1.46 euro each and every day. I'm actually considering investing a bit more here again this month, but honestly, I do not know how much longer Bondora can keep the interest rate at 6%. If we take a look at the official statistics page from Bondora, we see a significant 51 million euros in new investments in January, compared to just 29 million euros in total loans issued in January. It was very similar back in December, and it is only getting worse, so to speak. I think Bondora will definitely have to lower the interest rates quite soon. I don't know for sure, but at least it looks that way unless they significantly increase the loan portfolio here. After that, Devon delivers 36 euros in interest on my relatively small investment, which is very attractive, and Via Invest pays me 35 euros, although I also shifted money here from Lande. And there's still some money from that, which is uninvested, but it should be invested very soon and bring me a nice 12% interest, as you can see here. Next come Lender Market and Lender Market with 34 and 30 euros in interest, as well as Afranga and Twino just behind. Mintos only brought me 17 euros last month, which is comparatively very little considering my rather high investment there. Well, to be honest, but since I'm growing my investments more and more in bonds, and they usually only distribute their interest every 3 or 6 months, sometimes I just don't get as much monthly interest as I do from the loans, which pay out monthly. Finally, there's Fintown with 11 euros 90 and a lot of accrued interest, which will be paid out to me all at once in the end, as well as Insol with 6 euros in interest. As mentioned, all test reports, on-site visits, and links with extra bonuses can be found below in the video description. So this is what the monthly interest looks like in the overview, although I still need to figure out how to change the color of this bar here. In any case, that was 900 euros in interest last month. A year ago today, we were at 571 euros, and the year before that at 297 euros. Here we can see the whole thing sorted by quarter again, and here we have another record value, and the line chart is also here, which shows the overall annual development so far. So I invested 6,000 euros in ETFs, 3,000 euros in Bitcoin, 500 euros in a savings plan with Monfit, and 500 euros, or rather Swiss francs, which I bought for my reserve. That's a little more than 500 euros. And if you enjoyed this video and the transparency behind it, then please give me a thumbs up and subscribe. That supports this channel incredibly much, and thank you for that at this point. And overall, the performance of my portfolio last month was bad, yes, to sum it up here. Apart from the passive income, which was very stable and good. Actually, my overall portfolio has been going down since last October. Of course, that's due to the Bitcoin portion, and it doesn't feel good at all. Yes, you have to be honest about that. My portfolio is currently suffering, but nothing has fundamentally changed about my investment hypothesis, especially using ETFs as a base, P2P for the cash flow E, and Bitcoin as protection against currency devaluation. That's why I'm just continuing as before, and we're in a rough patch right now, but as investors, we have to get through it. And the more I think about it, the more I actually like this pain from these losses. Yes, because without good entry prices, there simply won't be any returns in the long run. That's exactly why I'm happy to buy right now, and so bring on the losses, I'd say. I like buying. What do you think about Bitcoin's losses and the current market developments, especially with the crazy gold and silver prices? Let me know in the comments below. I'm looking forward to the exchange, and with that, I wish you good returns and see you next time.